Yeah, this offense is so interesting because it's not like they can't be stopped. And in fact, for great stretches of time, like the Raiders shut them out for 3 quarters. Like you can stop this team scoring for a long period of time. The problem is that it's very hard to do it for the entire game. And when they click, they can score like 28 and a quarter.
Right.
They just immediate scores back to back. This is why this offense last year or this year reminds me so much of that like 98 Vikings team, right? Because you could slow them down and stop them scoring again for great periods. It's just that when they clicked, it was immediate touchdowns.
How's our financial plan coming?
Super! Chris, any advice?
With Western and Southern, preparing for your financial future can be easier than you think. Favorite receiver?
Huh?
To get started, visit westernsouthern.com.
Starting with an AFC Championship rematch, Kansas City Chiefs travel to New England to take on the Patriots. So the Chiefs have 4 losses right now, and the Patriots' offense just not good compared to what we're used to seeing. Has this matchup lost a little luster?
No, I think it's still a really good matchup. I mean, if nothing else, you're dealing with 2 of the best coaches in the NFL. Plus, you've got Patrick Mahomes, spectacular. You got Tom Brady, still really fun to watch. It's still really good. Like the Patriots, they're 10-2. People are talking about them like they're done. Like this
Annual.
Right.
This is an annual thing.
I think there is something to this idea of they're probably not as good as 10-2. Like they've had a really nice schedule that's helping them out a ton. But they're still a good team. And, the Chiefs haven't been the same team they were a year ago either. Like Kansas City's offense is not humming the way it was. They're 8th right now in terms of PFF's ELO rankings, which is, our version of all the data and grading rolled up to tell you how good a team actually is, not what they're producing.
It adjusts for schedule, it adjusts for where they're strong, all that stuff, right?
So they're 8th. Now, granted, you've been missing Mahomes for some games, you've missed Tyreek Hill for some games, you've had Matt Moore in there, you've had a hobbled Patrick Mahomes some other games. So, they're probably higher than that, but they're not as good as they were a season ago where they were basically unstoppable. The other thing that's fascinating to me about this is people say this all the time, and I think most of the time it's probably not true. But I do think legitimately the Houston Texans showed people what you should be doing from a blueprint game plan standpoint to stop the offense of New England, right? Double Edelman, treat James White as a receiver, cover him with defensive backs, and just dare anybody else to win, ever. Now, Kansas City doesn't have a good defense, but that is essentially deploying your resources. You don't need to be good to achieve that game plan, right?
They've been better in recent weeks, though. And here's the thing. When they signed Steve Spagnuolo to be the defensive coordinator, but they didn't really add a ton of talent on the back end, my take at the time, at least, was, all right, he's more, they're going to play less man-to-man. It's not going to be as talent-driven. It's going to be a little bit more scheme-driven, game plan-oriented, game plan-driven. We're sitting here, and they have the number 18 coverage grade in the NFL, the Chiefs. So there's been a little bit of an improvement there. Now, remember last year they had the number 1 pass rush in like a bottom 5 coverage unit. The pass rush isn't the same, but ultimately they're making life a little bit more difficult in the back end. Tyrann Mathieu had a really nice pick last week. Travarius Ward's done some nice things. So I think they've pieced it together a little bit on the back end that I think they might be able to give New England some trouble if it's a game plan oriented type of look.
But I think critically, that game plan doesn't actually require you to be that good to execute it.
To just take out Edelman and let
right, because you're taking out Edelman with bodies, right? So none of the people doing it actually need to be top cover guys. What you're doing with James White is essentially just saying that, look, our cornerback has a better shot at covering him than our linebacker does. So even if our cornerback isn't particularly good, he's still a hell of a lot better than a linebacker trying to cover him.
Right.
And then you're just relying on not getting beat by guys that are struggling to win. So whether it's N'Keal Harry, whether it's Mohamed Sanu, whoever, like they just don't have guys that are consistently winning outside of that. So I honestly think you don't need to have particularly strong personnel to execute this game plan and at least consistently force them to go to plans B and C.
Yeah, don't forget last year the Patriots came out running the ball quite a bit, and they moved the ball really well in their first couple drives. the entire first quarter. After that, the narrative is that they just ran the ball down Kansas City's throat, and that's why they won. In the first quarter, that was the case. After that, Kansas City did a better job of stopping the run in the AFC Championship game, and then New England threw the ball a little bit better, and they ended up winning 37-31 in overtime. But I could see this being a game where at least the initial game plan is Kansas City's got the worst run defense grade in the league. This could be the game where they try to play a little bit more power football in New England to get that offense going. They did go a little bit more fullback driven last year at this time, run the ball. They don't have a fullback at this point, but they have to figure something out.
Right. Their fullback right now is Landon Roberts, the linebacker. Right.
And they've done a lot with Matt Lacoste on the field the last couple of days. They just don't have that dynamic tight end. But from a run game standpoint, they might try to play heavy there. What about Mahomes and that passing attack against Belichick? I mean, last year when Mahomes is in his MVP season, we said even in Mahomes' worst games, they still find a way to score 30. Mm-hmm. But they were, shut out in the first half of the AFC Championship, and there was even points in the first matchup last year in New England, Sunday Night Football, just making Mahomes a little bit uncomfortable. Now, Mahomes also could have thrown for 8 touchdown passes in that first matchup. Remember, he missed a ton. But that was where some of the zero blitz stuff started. They were zero blitz and Mahomes just throwing off his timing just enough.
They were, and that was like he was inches from a couple of those plays. Like they almost had Tyreek Hill behind a zero blitz that would have just been curtains, touchdown immediately. Yeah, it's this offense is so interesting because it's not like they can't be stopped. And in fact, for great stretches of time, like the Raiders shut them out for 3 quarters. Like you can stop this team scoring for a long period of time. The problem is that it's very hard to do it for the entire game. And when they click, they can score like 28 and a quarter. Right. They just immediate scores back to back. But this is why this offense last year or this year reminds me so much of that like 98 Vikings team, right? Because you could slow them down and stop them scoring again for great periods. It's just that when they clicked, it was immediate touchdowns.
Like my Bryce Pop-led Jaguars back in 98.
Yeah.
They kind of slowed them down in the first half. But before you know it, it's 50-10.
But it's like, we've done a good job. We've held them a couple of times, and then, oops, there's Randy Moss for an 80-yard touchdown. Yeah. Damn.
Anytime I can get Bryce Pop named on the podcast and back-to-back pods. Yeah.
And this is the same thing with the Chiefs, right? It's like, we've done a good job. Oops, Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, like Travis Kelce, score, done.
I thought that the game plan by Houston offensively was fantastic. I mean, for years, if you've looked at New England's team, it's like, all right, Dante Hightower's versatile. He does some nice things. And Jamie Collins is athletic and all that stuff. But if you're going to attack somebody, probably attack those linebackers. Your boy Juwan Bentley's out there. He's built a little bit like Hightower. You could stretch those guys sideline to sideline. You saw Houston do that a lot with Duke Johnson out of the backfield. Don't forget last year, Tyreek Hill in the AFC Championship game legitimately double-teamed about 13, 14 times. Like legit just 2 guys, the same way Edelman was double-teamed last week. Mm-hmm. If they do that again, it could become a running back game again. Because in that game, it was like there were some screen passes that were just wide open.
Right.
And there was some, easy throws to the back. So the cat and mouse game between Andy Reid and Bill Belichick is always fascinating. And Andy Reid's one of the coaches that's had pretty consistent success. If you're just looking at putting points up against Belichick defenses, he's done a nice job with it, even with Alex Smith, the quarterback.
And the Chiefs are running out of running backs. So if it does become a running back game, it's basically LaShawn McCoy and nobody else.
But running backs don't matter, so they'll just throw it to anybody.
Maybe they're actually running out of bodies.
Right.
They matter when you run out of them. They don't matter insofar as you can plug pretty much anybody in and have the same kind of production. But when you physically don't have anybody anymore, that's when they matter.
If you're looking for a historical look, Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator back in 2007 when the Giants beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I don't think he was there in 2011, right? No, because he'd already had a head coaching job with the Rams.
St. Louis Rams, right?
But he was the one. Remember, we found the blueprint for beating Brady back then? All you have to do is get pressure 50% of the time with your front four.
So that's the thing, right? I think the difference between, like, those are the things where it's like, oh, there's the blueprint. It's like, yeah, sure. If you can pressure him half of his dropbacks,
right.
that will have a lot of success.
Being really good is not a strategy.
Right. That will have a lot of success. On the other hand, it's virtually impossible to replicate. So it's probably not a blueprint.
Like in basketball today, you missed the game, but it was annoying.
Oh, yeah?
The dude on the other team just kept hitting shots.
Yeah.
Like there is no strategy. There's no strategy to that. Let me just keep chucking up threes and hitting them.
Yeah.
There's no strategy there.
Well, it's like there's no strategy for the rest of us against you in the post.
There's a strategy. I think
you're 9 foot tall. You're going to win.
So what I've noticed, I'm kind of like when a team goes on the road and they have to like handle the crowd and the the new atmosphere and all that stuff. When people start playing with me, they don't realize how big I am and everything. So I'll pick some passes and off, and oh, you missed it. I went coast to coast and dunked it.
Yeah.
Stole it from dude.
Did it look as bad as when you tried to go in and dunk it?
It was kind of slow motion. And then I turned around and nobody was following me. I was like, oh, did somebody call a foul? What happened?
Yeah.
And they just all wanted to watch me dunk poorly.
It is a spectacle.
Anyway, enough about my basketball.
Yeah.
But people get used to me after a while. Eric's figured out how to play me. Anyway, this is a great matchup. Both sides of the ball. If you're a New England Patriots fan, with all the talk about the offense, I said last week would be the week, right? There should be a stretch where they start to get it going, right? Like at Houston, home against Kansas City, and then at Cincinnati, where you might see signs of life. Last week was not the week. So this would be the week you want to see something good happen. And if you're a Patriots fan, where are you going with this one?
With the Patriots.
I am too.
I honestly think, though, that there's a very good chance this Chiefs team can win, given what we saw last week with the Patriots' struggles against Houston. I think Kansas City can replicate what happened. And again, the difference between the blueprint of the 2007 Super Bowl, i.e. just get pressure on them every snap, right? You can't replicate that. It's virtually impossible.
Right.
I think you can replicate what the Texans did last week, almost regardless of who you are, and have the same kind of effect. Slow them down, cause problems. Remember, this Texans defense is not exactly amazing. I think the Chiefs can have the same game plan, really cause New England offense problems, at which point, like at that stage, if the Chiefs start putting up some points, I don't think the Patriots can match them.
And then it's on the Patriots to adjust, and they did a little bit last week, move Edelman around. I mean, we'll see, cat and mouse game there as well. So a couple good schematic battles, I think, in that one.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.